Hey, what's up guys, Codepunk here. Welcome to another tutorial in the vanilla JavaScript series. Today I'm going to show you 10 ways you can select elements in the document in vanilla JavaScript using no framework, right? So I'm going to create an example, an element for example over here. So that's going to be heading nh1 hello world. Okay. So the very first method that I want to show you guys is the fetching elements using their tag name, right? So get elements by tag name. We can call it by calling the document object and using that to call this method by tag name. And remember, it's elements with s. It returns us an HTML collection of elements, right? So we have to pass it a tag name. I'm going to pass it h1, save that selection in a constant over here. I'm going to say headings, and I'm going to console log that out. Let's do a reload and let's see our console. So we have an HTML collection over here logged out, and we see the heading 1 in there. So let's say we have another heading over here, toolbar, and after reload we get two h1s over here, right? So the next method that I want to show you guys is getElementById. Remember, it returns us only one element, right? We can say const, let's fetch that first h1. Let's give it foo, right? I'm gonna fetch that foo heading over here, document.getElementById, and I'm gonna pass it the ID that we need to fetch. Let's also log this out, do reload. There we go, we got that foo heading in there. We can do anything with this, like we change it in a HTML, in a text, or assign any style attribute, or change its class list. I'm going to show you that in another tutorial. Another method that we can use to fetch elements is by class names. So this is also another method which returns an HTML collection, not a single element. So we can say get element by class name, and we can call it using document.getElementsByClassName. This will accept the class name, whatever element we want to fetch, right, as a parameter. So we can say fetch elements whichever has a class foo, right? Let's make another constant over here, and I'm gonna comment that out. I'll give this one a class foo, and let's also give this one class foo and also bar. I'm gonna show you guys later why I've given this bar too. So I'm gonna console log this out too. Okay, there we go. We got an HTML collection of two elements, both h1s, which have foo classes. So we can also provide multiple classes to this method as a parameter, separated by spaces, right? What this will do is it will only fetch those elements which have both of these classes, foo and bar. Okay, so in our case over here, it will fetch only this heading, right? Let's see, by reloading, we get that. Okay, and also it doesn't matter in which order you provide the classes to this method. If I change the order, the result will always remain the same. There we go. So our next method we're going to learn is getElementsByName. This is a less commonly used method because developers don't often assign name attribute to most of the elements, right? Except there are input selects or any other form element. But what we can do over here is we can create two forms, right? And we can assign the name, let's say form, and let's say we have another form which is for let's say we have this form for user, and we have another form, same user, right? We have these both forms with name users. What we can do is we can fetch those forms right here using document.getElementsByName. This method also returns us HTML collection. So we can pass in the name attribute that we want to fetch by, right? We can log this out to see if we get those elements. Yeah, there we have the node list. Remember, this is not an HTML collection, this is node list. Also, I wanted to show you guys HTML collection, we can loop through this HTML collection using for loop, right? We can say el of foo or off loop, right? Console.log el. This will console log the h1 out in this collection. And we can also use array, directly call array method for each by using its prototype, and use JavaScript's native call method on this, and provided the array that we want to call this method on. So it's exactly not an array, but an HTML collection that we want to call it on, and we can pass in the callback that will accept each element and whatever we want to do with that element, right? So this is the exact same alternate for a loop, but these both have their own caveats. So it depends on you, whichever method you want to use. I'm also going to make another tutorial on array prototype methods, which provides the latest standards and latest best practices in JavaScript. I'm going to link that out in this video's description later. You will get notified if you subscribe and press the bell icon on the channel. Thank you so much in advance. So let's move on to another method that we have. So this is very commonly used method and a very powerful selecting method, which is querySelector. And remember, it only returns one element. So what querySelector is, let's see. I'm going to comment these logs out first. So let's say we want to fetch those elements which have the class foo, right? I'm going to say document.querySelector.foo. And this is exactly what we do in CSS. We can use any kind of CSS selector over here and fetch those elements. But it will only return first matching element, okay? Now let's console log this out, okay? We don't want to use s over here because it's only one element. There we go, we got the first h1. And if I want to fetch the first element with name attribute in our document, I'll use square brackets like in CSS and say name, fetch me the first element which has the name attribute. There we go. And I can also say fetch me that element which has the name equal to user, which is our first form over here. Let's move on to the sixth one, which is the exact as querySelector but with all. And the difference between querySelector and querySelector all is that it returns multiple elements, all elements which match the selector, right? So I'm going to say else document.querySelector. I want to select all forms, right? I can say, let's log that out. Reload. There we go. We have all the forms. Sorry, I didn't write all over here. Okay. There we go. We got both forms. And let's say I want to fetch those forms which have the name attribute. Again, it will produce the same result. And let's say I want to fetch all heading with ID foo. There we go. We can use any kind of CSS selector over here in querySelector all. So the next four methods, these are not exactly methods, those are properties of document, but they're very useful in browsing over the document. The seventh one is the document.images. Okay, so any image that we have in our document, in our HTML web page, we can access that by using document.images array. This is an array which contains all of the images produced on our web page, right? So let's suppose I have one image over here. I'll write the URL over here. I don't have any local image right now, so I create two images. Okay, and if I log this out, document.images array, it will have all those images tagged that are in our web page right now. It doesn't matter where they are. We will have them all in this HTML collection. Okay. Same as that, we have document.scripts. So this will log out only one script because we only have one script tag in our web page right now. So it will log out the script in an HTML collection. Same as that, we have document.links. And what links does is it will give us all anchor tags in our web page. Okay, so let's suppose I have one over here which goes to google.com, and if I console log this out, document.links, I will get that anchor tag in an HTML collection in links. These are all HTML collections. You can call array.prototype methods on these. You can call length attribute to see how much of those tags you have in our web page, and you can also loop through them, filter through them. You can do anything. Okay, and last one, the document.forms. We can get all our forms present in our web page in document.forms. Right now we have two forms. And also, there's one more thing. We can also get these forms by name, right? Because we have name attribute, and HTML convention is to have different name attribute for each element. We can have same name for two elements. That's why this is overwriting. So if I reload right now, we'll get user one and user two. We can also access these by names. If I don't have a name attribute on a form, we won't get that by name over here, but we will always get that by index. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to use these in your next project using vanilla JavaScript. And don't forget to subscribe the channel and press that bell icon. Thank you so much, guys. Bye bye. See you in the next tutorial.